Hello, good morning po.
Good morning, Gretchen.
Yon, there. Can you hear me? Thanks for joining
Yes,
us.
yes.
Okay. Good morning, I'm Gretchen Ho, and here on Morning Matters, we talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind the headlines. Four of the six members of the Liberal Party are now part of the supermajority coalition in Congress, backing the leadership of Speaker Martin Romualdez. Deputy Speaker Representative David Suarez said they are now part of the larger movement for legislative continuity and national stability. According to Suarez, the decision of LP members to align with Romualdez reflects a recognition of the leadership maturity and policy competence. Aside from the LP, the supermajority bloc consists of Lakas CMD, Nacionalista, Nationalist People's Coalition, and Partido Federal ng Pilipinas, among others. Now let's discuss that further with a lawyer and former Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives and now Liberal Party President Erin Tanyada. Welcome to Morning Matters.
Good morning, Gretchen, and to all your viewers at Morning Matters.
Okay, Attorney, the House leadership has claimed that majority of the Liberal Party members in the House have joined the supermajority. Number one, is there truth to this?
Well, we were surprised by the statement of Deputy Speaker J.J. Suarez because in our last meeting, it was agreed by the members, the incoming members of the 20th Congress, to table the matter for further discussions. That's number one. And number two, to await also the return of Senator-elect Kiko Pangilinan from the United States, who attended the graduation of his daughter. And so we would want to consult him on this matter on how even in the Senate, how the Liberal Party would position itself.
So it is Senator Kiko Pangilinan that you see as the torchbearer for the Liberal Party as of now?
Well, right now he is the chairman of the Liberal Party
okay. All right.
until we have a formal recognition of the new elected members of Congress. And so since we're talking about the 20th Congress and the incoming members of the House and incoming member in the Senate, in our discussions with the incoming members of the 20th Congress in the House, they decided that they would want to wait for the return of Senator Kiko to the Philippines to further discuss how the members of the House will position itself vis-a-vis Kiko's position in the Senate, because as we all know, this is not only a question of the race in the House, but there is also a race in for the Senate presidency, which everyone is also trying to figure out how it's going to go.
So it is safe to say that this piece of news caught you off guard?
Yes, and
Okay.
because it was very clear in our discussion last week that we would table the matter. It would have been nice if Deputy Speaker Suarez would have mentioned who these four members of
Yun
the
nga po yung
Liberal
susunod kong
Party.
tanong kung sino po yung apat, no? 4 out
Kaya
of the
nga eh.
6.
Kaya nga. So, yun, hindi rin namin alam, no, kung sino. That's why sabi namin baka posturing rin 'yan dahil we all know that there is a ongoing race on who will be the speaker of the House of Representatives in the 20th Congress.
But looking at possibilities, is that door open? I mean, the possibility of aligning with the supermajority and consequently the administration.
Well, we will have to discuss that because number one, we have to realize that certain principles of our members have to be taken into consideration, and vis-a-vis the needs of our constituents in the legislative districts. So these are serious questions that are being discussed by the members. And the next question, of course, is will we be voting as a block, or we will allow the members to decide based on their conscience on where to go. That's why we decided to table the issue until Senator Kiko returns, so that we have further discussions on the matter.
Well, prior to the 2022 elections, of course, we do know that there is a stark difference in values of the current or between the current administration and also the Liberal Party. But what is the party policy here? Where do you draw the line when it comes to those values that you mentioned and also the party discipline? Of course, we do know that the Marcos family has a deep, painful history, and the Liberal Party for the longest time has been calling for them to be held accountable for the sins of martial law, for the plunder of the state, and also the spread of disinformation. I mean, where do you draw the line in terms of these alliances?
Well, again, we will have to look who is right now going to be the threat, no, to the Filipino people in the coming Congress, and this is how we will have to view it and try to figure out where would be the best position of the party to promote its agenda. So these are things that we have to discuss. That's why it was a difficult, well, it was not a difficult, it was an interesting discussion among members of the House. I'm not a member of the House, but I was trying to facilitate the meeting. And at the end of the meeting, everyone decided, let's wait also for Senator Kiko to return, because it also affects his position in the Senate on how he would position himself.
And then, do you agree with Congressman Suarez when he said that the decision of LP members to align with Romualdez reflects a recognition of the leadership maturity and policy competence?
I think that is a premature statement, because we have not yet really decided on how the Liberal Party will position itself. That's why we'll have to wait, no? Anyway, may 3 araw pa naman ang 19th Congress. June 2, June 3, June 4. And then that's the end of the 19th Congress. And I'm sure pagdating ng June 5, kanya-kanyang posisyonan na yan kung saan sila sasama o hindi sasama.
When you say that your decision will reflect the agenda of the Liberal Party, is that within the purview of the 2028 elections upcoming with 3 years left? And of course, pag sinabi niyo pong threat, who will be a threat to the people, medyo malawak po yun eh. What does that
we will
mean?
have to see. We will have to see, Gretchen, dahil kailangan makita natin ano ba yung mga polisiya na i-implement ng kasalukuyang administrasyon rin sa remaining 3 years, no? Yan ba ay makakatulong at aligned ba yan sa position ng Liberal Party, no? Dahil ito yung magiging giya namin kung paano namin haharapin itong sabihin natin, itong masalimuot na yugto ng huling 3 taon ng administrasyon ni Bongbong Marcos.
Is it possible to have a more independent stance though? I mean, with things. Naalala ko kasi I had Senator Kiko here, tapos sinabi niya, I'm not sure, or si Attorney Shell Jokno, parang sinabi niya na issue position sila. Pati si former Senator Laila de Lima, ganun ang
Yes.
naging stance eh. Is there a possibility of that continuing further or to be able to strengthen your bid for 2028? Medyo
Yes.
kailangan mamili dito.
Yes, it will be an issue to issue basis. Of course, with regard to education, I think there's no question that we are supportive of the administration. With regard to PhilHealth, we have a problem that they removed the subsidy of PhilHealth. As a matter of fact, there are some civil society organizations that went up to the Supreme Court questioning the removal of the funds of PhilHealth. So there it will be an issue to issue basis. We will be collaborating, or if not, criticizing the administration.
But just to wrap up this conversation about joining the supermajority, has anybody reached out to you or to Senator Kiko for those alliances to happen?
Well, in the Senate, I wouldn't know because the people that would be reaching out to the centers elect are those who are interested in becoming the Senate president. In the House, I would confirm that Speaker Romualdez has been reaching out to members of Congress, no, from whatever party, and we are not immune to that. We've received calls from the Speaker's office, but we've told the Speaker that we're continuing to discuss the matter, and he will know when we are ready to take any position on the issue.
Okay, Senator Risa Ontiveros has said she is open to the possibility of running in 2028. Has that been discussed within the Liberal Party? Of course, she is technically with Akbayan as her party, but is there any kind of discussion with her possibly joining forces with the Liberal Party?
Wala pa, masyadong premature kasi ang kailangan pag-usapan paano i-convene yung Big Tent, no? I think that's the first step. We can't have different candidates coming from the 2022 experience. We just have to have one, and in order to get to that one person, there has to be a coalition that would agree to this, and we haven't had yet that coalition building, which I think is the important step that we have to first get to before we even talk about the selection process, and then before we even talk about who would be the people interested to run in 2028. So mahaba, masyadong premature pa rin yung usapan na yan. Kailangan mag-spade work muna and reach out to other groups, no? Para to build the trust. Kailangan may trust building muna and good faith in order to continue with the process.
Congressman, just very, very curious to know, have you already reflected on what happened with the midterm elections and this seemingly resurgence of members of the political party? What do you attribute the success to? Tingin niyo po ba dahil po yan sa youth vote? And meron ba talagang youth vote kayo nakikita? Kasi noong 2016 and 2022, didn't they also vote for Duterte and for Marcos? I mean, ano yung mga learnings ninyo from this election that you'd take to the next?
Well, right now we're still studying and crunching the numbers, no? Because it is important. What we have is 2019 experience and 2022 experience where the university votes did not reflect what the youth votes actually delivered. Now, the question will be, did the youth really come out to vote? And what is difficult here is that the COMELEC numbers do not reflect yet the age group that voted for whom. And this is the problematic area. How do we now determine if actually it was the youth vote that carried the day? Kasi ang ballots hindi naman nakalagay kung anong taon yung bumoto eh. Kaya ito yung mahirap at sinisikap naming mapag-aralan ng gusto para malaman namin kung paano nakakuha ng malaking boto si Bam Aquino para maging number 2 or even si Kiko Pangilinan who was doing number 16 or 17 and jumped all the way to number 5.
Do you think the TikTok content helped tremendously with your bid?
I think it has something to do also with TikTok or any other social media program dahil alam naman natin, Gretchen, ang tawag ngayon sa generation na ito ay swipe generation. And mabilis sila mag-swipe sa kahit anong reel. Ang importante dito makakuha ng magandang opening to let them stop for at least 5 seconds in order to view whatever you're pushing in whatever social media platform. Kaya ito yung kailangan mapag-aralan ng husto.
Si Senator Bam Aquino has the Liberal Party adopted him. We know he ran under another party, yung Katipunan ng Nagkakaisang Pilipino. Pero he is officially adopted by the LP, tama ba?
Well, no. He ran as KNP, no? Katipunan ng Nagkakaisang Pilipino. And he officially separated from the Liberal Party in 2024. But he's still considered an ally of the Liberal Party.
But what was the rationale for that split?
Well, he felt I think it's better to answer, to let Bam answer that question, but he felt he wanted more freedom to chart his own way. So, and I will leave that to Bam. We accepted his explanation. I was present. Then Congressman Ed Salagman was also present. So we bid him well and hope that he is able to achieve what he plans for KNP.
But is he also considered as one of the possible candidates for 2028? No? Sa PayPasi siguro parang papabili.
Mahirap magsabi. Dahil sabi ko nga masyadong maaga eh. And we have to be very careful on what we say to media. What is important here, we have to start building the blocks, no, in order to get the different organizations in the same page. And what is important here is trust. So kailangan mauna yan. Dahil kapag walang pagtitiwala sa isa't isa, mahirap magkaroon ng isang kandidato. So yun yung unang kailangan ma-achieve po ng iba't ibang mga grupo.
And along those lines,
2022.
Along those lines, hindi ba masyadong maaga rin nagpahiwatig to si Senator Risa? I mean, what were your thoughts when that came out in an interview?
Well, that's I would leave it to Senator Risa on what her plans are. Of course, some people say it's better to know early who are the contenders for 2028, at least alam na ng lahat, no? Pero yun nga, kailangan muna unti-unti to reach out first to the different organizations, try to get them on the same page, have the trust, and then once they are on the same page, then we discuss, okay, what is the selection process that candidates will have to go through in order to be considered as the candidate of the block. Now, if the selection process is agreed upon, then we will now obviously invite those who are interested to join that selection process. It would be similar to that of maybe, no? I'm just looking back at history, Gretchen. I'm not saying that that this is the process that should be followed, but we should look back on how the convener group was established. This was the group that selected President Cory Aquino to run in 1986. So, ganun yung proseso na sana mangyari bago tayo humantong kung sino-sino yung mga kandidato at sino yung huling pipiliin para lumaban.
Well, before we try to get on the same page for 2028, it is a must to get on the same page first when it comes to these alliances over in the House. Maraming salamat for answering our questions and joining us this morning. We have from the Liberal Party, Executive Vice President Erin Tanyada.
Thank you, Gretchen, and one big fight, of course, to our
One big fight. Stay tuned. Morning Matters. We'll be back after a quick break. Hello, Chairman.
Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Morning, ma'am.
Okay. Yan, ready na po tayo. Malapit na po tayo. Naririnig ba ako?
Sa pataw, di narinig. Ayan.
Ayan. Ang hirap nyo hagilapin, share. Buti nakuha ko rin kayo.
Ay, oo, ma'am. Alam mo naman ang buhay ko eh.
Medyo mas relax na ba?
Hindi pa, naku, ang dami, ma'am. May Bangsamoro pa kami, tsaka barangay.
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. Outgoing Senator Bong Revilla will file cyber libel charges against individuals who purportedly spread fake news against him. According to his camp, this was likely the reason for his loss in his senatorial re-election bid this 2025. Lawyer Raymond Fortun specifically mentioned false information about the Sandigan Bayan ruling on the PDAF plunder case against Revilla. Fortun said Revilla has decided to defend his and his family's reputation by exercising legal remedies against fake news. The OFW party list has asked the Supreme Court to review party list seat allocations for the 20th Congress. They argue that more groups should be included beyond the 54 proclaimed winners and propose increasing the total to 64 seats. Ranked 59th, the group said this would ensure fair representation for marginalized sectors like OFWs and seafarers. Meanwhile, Vice Mayor-elect Harold Respicio filed a petition challenging COMELEC's suspension of his proclamation, while the Makabayan bloc pushed for a congressional probe into alleged election irregularities. COMELEC said it will follow any Supreme Court directive.
Ang OFW hindi po titigil, lalaban hanggang dulo dahil alam ko na panalo po ang OFW party list. Ang laban po ito sa mga laylayan. Sana po yung mga nagre-represent, totoo namang nagre-represent. Ang dami pong party list, nakita namin, hindi ko alam kung sino-sino itong mga to nanalo. Anong sektor nanalo?
To get COMELEC's reactions for these petitions, we have on the show today Chairman George Garcia. Good morning. Welcome to Morning Matters.
Good morning, Ma'am Gretchen. Good morning to all the televiewers.
Okay, Chairman, unahin po natin itong mga balitang binasa ko lang. Si Senator Bong Revilla will file against the trolls that spread fake news on the PDAF. Would that do anything to reverse the results, or is that just moot?
Well, on the part of commissioner elections, surely after the proclamation of the winning candidates, we can no longer entertain disqualification cases, because we can only do that if there is a pending disqualification case prior to the election and even prior to the proclamation of the winning candidates. If there is any other case that can be filed after the proclamation, then it can only be an election offense. However, we do not want to foreclose any other remedy that may be availed of by a candidate who wanted to at least find out what really happened during the election. So kung yung ipapile po ay tungkol sa mga misinformation, disinformation, or fake news, or cyber libel. Cyber libel is a crime by itself under the revised penal code and under special law. And at the same time, because we have what we call as a resolution on the use of social media, artificial intelligence, and such other platforms, then that can also be a ground for an election offense to be filed before the Commission on Elections.
So ito po ay so hindi na pwede ma-disqualify is what you're saying. Dapat po ay and in the case that the COMELEC rules for the one who filed an election offense, will that change things? Could that change things in terms of getting Senator Bong Revilla into the Senate, or may mga ganun ba na for example, a sitting mayor or another official?
Just to be very clear, Ma'am Gretchen, and this is without referring to the personality that you mentioned or to the case that he or she may be filing before the commission. It's like this actually. Kapag ka naproklama na yung isang kandidato for local position, hindi nangangahulugan na porke dumating na yung June 30, mawawala ng jurisdiction ng COMELEC. The COMELEC will still retain jurisdiction. Even if nakaupo na, nakapag-assume na yung local candidates, the COMELEC can still remove that local candidate so long as there is a pending disqualification case against him or against. That is different when it comes to the national candidates. The national candidates, Ma'am Gretchen, if there is a disqualification case filed before the election or before the proclamation, and dumating ang June 30, the COMELEC will be losing jurisdiction. The Supreme Court in the case of Reyes versus the Commission on Election clarified that in order for the COMELEC to be divested of each jurisdiction to hear disqualification cases, 3 requisites must be present. Number 1, proclamation. Number 2, oath. That can be an oath before a barangay chairman or even a notary public. And thirdly, there must be assumption to office. Under the Constitution, assumption to office of a duly elected official shall forthwith come on June 30 noon at 12:01. So pagdating ng 12:01, ma'am, the COMELEC will be losing jurisdiction. Under Article 6, Section 17 of the Constitution, it's clearly provided that the House of Representatives Electoral Tribunal shall be the sole judge of all election returns and qualifications of the members of the House of Representatives. In the same manner, the same constitutional provision provides that the Senate Electoral Tribunal shall be the sole judge of all elections, returns, and qualifications of the members of the Senate. Meaning, sole, according to the Supreme Court, is to the exclusion of any other court, even including the Supreme Court. So in which case, therefore, pagdating po ng June 30, the COMELEC will be losing jurisdiction. However, in the case of the party list, as far as the nominees are concerned, the Supreme Court in the case of Palparan versus HRET and Abayon versus HRET, the Supreme Court emphasized that the members of Congress are the nominees themselves, not the party list. But the candidates are the party list organizations or political parties. That being the case, the COMELEC can still entertain petitions to disqualify party list organizations. Pero pagdating ng June 30, hands off na kami, Ma'am Gretchen, sa mga nominees nila kasi magiging miyembro na sila ng House of Representatives, but not in the case of their organizations or political parties or party lists. Yan yung recent case ng Anwaray versus the Commission on Elections.
Dahil pinuntahan nyo na rin po yan, no? I had former Congressman Ronald Cardema talk about their case. Sabi nila, no, bakit daw ngayon parang pinag-iinitan sila, noong 2019, pinayagan naman silang tumuloy kahit na tinanggal na, disqualify na si Cardema. At noong 2022, pinayagan din silang tumuloy. And they were not informed when the party lists were being verified in terms of being legal to run for the 2025 elections. So what would you say to that?
Well, to be very transparent first, I did not participate in the deliberation as far as to suspend the proclamation of the party list that you mentioned. Actually, on the issue of being singled out, we have to remember na hindi lang po sila ang nasuspend ng proclamation ng commission. Dalawa po silang party list na nasuspend ng proclamation. And when it comes to to those who are running naman for other positions, 20 candidates at may mga kilalang mga personalities din ang nasuspend ng proclamation ng commission. So meaning to say, maybe it's really wrong to say that na masyado naman silang na-separate or na-prejudice nitong action ng commission. So again,
pero Chairman, pero hindi po ba yung kaso ni Ronald Cardema ay hiwalay doon sa registration ng kanyang partido? Ibig sabihin kung ano yung actions ni Cardema, he does it as an individual. I mean, should that be separate?
When the proclamation is to be made in favor of a party list, nakalagay din po kasi yung pangalan ng nominees, Ma'am Gretchen, and therefore you cannot proclaim the nominees without proclaiming the party list. So you cannot separate the two, the party list and the nominees.
Okay.
They must go hand in hand. In fact, you can proclaim the party list, but you may refuse to proclaim the nominees. But when you proclaim the nominees, surely you will have to proclaim the party list. In this case, because the issue pertains to the qualification of the party list itself as to the requirements for purposes of accreditation. I think the case, that is the main meat of the controversy in the division of the COMELEC. And therefore, tama naman po Ma'am Gretchen, 2019 pa yan, 19, 20, 21. Bakit naman, I cannot answer for what happened during those years. But of course, under the present leadership, we have to resolve cases, pagpasok ko dyan, cases involving 16, 19, and 2022 elections. We resolved almost all of them. Ito na lang yung mga natitira. And so perhaps it's really high time that this case should be resolved with finality so that masettle na ito once and for all yung sa issue nila. Actually, the party list that you mentioned, humaharap siya sa dalawang cases. But the most important one is the 2019 case because yun yung nagtagal na. And again, I'm hoping that they can appreciate the fact that the COMELEC is taking advantage of this situation to release a decision and so that whoever will win or lose can go to a higher court.
Well, Chairman, why wasn't this brought up at an earlier time, before the elections?
Because under our rules, you cannot, I don't know sa mismong division ng COMELEC namin. Siyempre, Ma'am Gretchen, kanya-kanya, I cannot interfere because the chairman of the COMELEC does not participate in the division. It's up to them whether to resolve or not to resolve. And number two, so long as there is no motion from any camp to suspend any proclamation or whatever, so it's actually the division that recommended for the proclamation, suspension of the proclamation of the party list. But again, I did not participate in the deliberation.
Okay.
However, on the issue as to whether pwede pa bang habulin ng isang party list kahit na nakapag-participate na, yun po yung pinaka-lesson ngayon ng kaso ng Anwaray versus the Commission on Elections. Because in the case of Anwaray, ilang beses sila nakapag-participate, Ma'am Gretchen, and then only to find out later that their accreditation should be cancelled. And it was affirmed by the Supreme Court most recently, just a matter of several months ago lang, yung decision na yun.
Okay. Mukhang mahaba-habang diskusyon pa yan, no? But we'll leave it to the courts. No? Let's go to former President Rodrigo Duterte, who is in The Hague. DILG Secretary John Vic Remulla said that although he will ask for permission from the ICC for him to be able to take his oath, ang sabi din niya, there is no working from home. Work from Hague pala. There will be no work from Hague arrangement. That while he recognizes the victory of Duterte, the former president needs to be physically present in the country to fulfill his duties as a duly elected government official. What does the law say?
Well, as I had been saying, the duty of the COMELEC ends upon or after proclamation. Once na nakapag-proclaim na kami, Ma'am Gretchen, I had been saying that the duty now belongs to another department of government, in which case, truly, it is the Department of Interior and local government as to who should sit, as to whether somebody should be allowed to sit, somebody should be allowed to post the powers and function of the office na tinakbuhan niya. As far as the COMELEC is concerned, tapos na yung duty namin, ma'am. We proclaim the duly elected mayor of the city simply because there is no final judgment of conviction under Section 68 of the Omnibus Election Code. So wala naman kami magagawa so long as walang particular case, walang nagsababar sa amin, walang nagsasabi sa amin, walang nagpo-prohibit sa amin, or even a restraining order to proclaim the winning candidate. As to whether he can really assume, that is for the DILG to resolve in the meantime.
So sila po ang magdedesisyon dito, the sole body, to decide on the fate of Mayor Duterte. Okay.
Yes, although the local government code provides for a temporary succession in case of temporary vacancy to the office.
Which will be the vice mayor of the city, which is Baste Duterte.
Yes,
Okay.
Ma'am Gretchen. Temporarily, he will have to assume pending the eligibility of the duly elected mayor.
Okay. Chairman, the Makabayan Bloc has filed before the Congress a petition to look into the more than 1,000 election-related anomalies, of which 50% of the 1,500 verified violations are related to the automated counting machines. So ang niraise po nilang issue, ito po yung ink smudging, paper jams, overly sensitive scanners. Ang tanong ko po dito ay hindi po ba nakita yung mga problemang ito dun po sa dry run natin? And what would you say to that?
Ma'am Gretchen, ang question siguro is the most important question. Did it affect the counting of the votes? Did it affect even the voting by our voters? 82.2% of the Filipino voters went to the precincts during the election. The highest in the history of a midterm election. 82.2. Ibig sabihin, Ma'am Gretchen, 17.8% lang ang hindi nakaboto ng mga kababayan natin. They trooped to the polls. In fact, ang pinakadapat na tanong natin, hindi yung machines. Ang tanong natin, bakit ganun kahaba ang pila? Maybe because of the enthusiasm of the Filipinos, or maybe because we were given short of budget. Hindi naman kami nabigyan ng Kongreso ng budget. And we have 800 to 1,000 voters lining up sa bawat presinto. And that's why kita nyo yung dami ng botante. Yung machines, Ma'am Gretchen, wala tayong mag-function na machine. Yung mga machines natin, meron kaming pinalitan more or less mga 500 machines. Not because nasira yung machine, but because may nakita kami indication. For example, tama yung sabi nyo, nag-reject na yung machine, pinalitan kaagad namin. We have more or less 16,000 contingency machine. The first time in the history of our automated election na ganun kadami. So we have contingency machine to replace yung mga palagay natin nagkakaroon ng problem. Pero yung sinasabi nila na mayroong smudging, yung manipis yung papel, it did not affect the results of the election. Yung sinasabi nilang overvoting, that's overvoting, hindi siya tao. Overvoting, hindi siya votes yun eh. Yung 17 million votes yun. And 17 million should be divided by 12. Because 12 candidates did not benefit from a particular ballot. So 17 million divided by 12, that's almost 1.3 million. 1.3 million is only 2% of 57 million who voted during the election. which is within the range. And
Pero
therefore,
Chairman, hindi po ba napakahalaga nung 1.3 million na yun? Lalong-lalo na sa isang mahigpit na senatorial race.
In the senatorial
Significant
race-
pa rin yung numero na yun, hindi po ba?
1.3 million, even on the assumption that a candidate will get 0, the difference between the number 12 and number 13 is 1.4 million. So, mukhang napaka-impossible naman na yung number 12 ay makakakuha ng 0 doon sa 1.3 million na mga botante na nag-overvote. And, Ma'am Gretchen, it's not the fault of the machine that the voters had overvoted. If, for example, ako nga ma'am, nung bumoto ako, akala ko 12 na, yung pala magte-30 na, eksakto. So, it's never the mistake of the machine. If the voter will vote 13 instead of 12, the voter can be voting for
Pero
11. He cannot
to be honest,
vote.
when I came out to vote, isang katanungan ko, bakit ganito yung pentel pen? Parang talagang nagsasmudge, ano? So napakadali nung posibilidad na mapunta yung marker mo sa kabilang side ng
Ay, ma'am,
pahina o kaya sa
pag
ibang
tinignan-
parts
pag tinignan-
ng
pag tinignan
balota.
yung balota, pag tinignan yung balota sa likod, wala siyang eksaktong pangalan ng isang kandidato o party list na katapat eksakto ng mismong kandidato. We made sure of that. Meaning to say, even if it will not blot at the back, even on the assumption, for the sake of argument, that the pen will blot at the back, it will not be at exactly on the same circle as that of the other candidate for party list at the back.
Wait, Chairman, there were also those reports of mismatch from the actual ballots to what is printed in the VVPAT receipts. I know you said there is no evidence of that, but isn't it worth looking into also? Dahil yung mga reports na ito, kumari dito sa isang presinto, meron tayong reports ng mismatch. Maaari bang magkaroon ng manual counting dun sa mga presinto na yon to be able to address those reports and assert the integrity of the elections?
The best evidence will always be the random manual audit as provided for by law. The random manual audit is in place since 2010, and since 2010 it has been participated by practically the losing candidates, the Citizens Arm, and it's the random manual audit committee is headed by the Philippine Statistics Authority, the DepEd, the NAMFREL, PPCRB, Lente, including the PICPAP, the Philippine Institute of Certified Public Accountants. So ngayon ongoing ang kanilang random manual audit. Nakakamahigit na sila ng 200 ballot boxes out of the 700 ballot boxes electronically selected in the entire country. And then for that is what is provided for by law. When it comes to manual count, that can only happen in case there is an election protest. And so far in the COMELEC right now, we have more or less, we have less than 20 election protests, I think, filed before us for the position of governor and city mayors. We do not know if there are other protests for local positions, but certainly there will be protests likewise for the House of Representatives later on when somebody will become member of the House by June 30. So,
kasi
opportunity time.
the whole of the election day, I remember the COMELEC was seeing kung meron pong mga mismatch, i-report na lamang no dito sa mga COMELEC officers in the precincts. So for those who want to file an election protest, where do they do so?
Well, in the case of the municipal position, they can file the protest before the regional trial court. Tapos na yun, Ma'am Gretchen, 10 days after the proclamation, that's the only period by which you can file an election protest. Just like also in the commission election. For provincial, city, and regional positions, the protest should be filed and lodged before the commission election 10 days after the proclamation. For the members of the House of Representatives, that can only be filed 15 days after the assumption to office, which is more or less by July 15, yan ang deadline nila. Sa Senate Electoral Tribunal for the position of senators, that can only be filed again 15 days after the assumption to office, which is likewise July 15.
Yun nga lang, sino po ba ang magte-take ng pains to file an election protest, gumastos para dito, lalong-lalo na kung isang simpleng mamamayang Pilipino ka lang, ano? Parang hindi ba dapat na-address din yun within the election day kung meron silang concern when it comes to their ballot and kung nagre-reflect ba ng tama yung boto nila?
Well, nasa law po kasi, Ma'am Gretchen, because if you're going to entertain everything, wala tayo mapoproclaim. Baka nga tama talaga na wag na lang tayo mag-automated election. Annual election na nga lang, yun nga yung
Actually,
pinupursige nito.
Chairman, si Attorney Israelito Torion, I had him on the show and he said that a recount is needed since COMELEC did not follow what is in the law. Section 31 of RA 9369, if I'm not mistaken, says that in reading the official ballots during the counting, the chairman, poll clerk, and a third member shall assume positions to provide watchers and members of the public as may be conveniently accommodated in the polling place an unimpeded view of the ballot being readied by the chairman. So ang sinasabi po niya na sa batas daw natin na alongside this automated counting, meron ding dapat tinitignan ng mga viewers yung pagbibilang ng mga boto na yun.
I doubt whether, of course, I cannot engage, I'm hoping that they should not be engaged in that discussion because they already filed a case in the Supreme Court and therefore that's sub judice. But the most important one is when you read Section 31, you have to read the entirety of the entire Republic Act 9369, including even the title. That's full automated election. If that is really the case, if Section 31 is really the rule rather than the exception, then why is it that 2010 we had not been conducting a hybrid type of election, meaning manually counting and even automating the election? And number two, you will be needing additional budget for that. If you're going to conduct manual counting at the same time automated counting. Try to imagine our budget was even slashed by 4 billion pesos, and that's the reason why we have 800 to 1,000 voters per precincts. And at the same time, there should be an amendment of the law, Republic Act 9369, emphasize what is the procedure in conducting a manual recount of the ballots. So perhaps the proper remedy is really legislation, and since there's already a case in the Supreme Court, then we'll just wait for the ruling of the Supreme Court in this.
Chairman, bilang panghuling tanong, kasi wala na po tayong oras, no? What is your learning when it comes to online voting? There was a low turnout abroad, about 7.19% in North and Latin America, 24.15% in Asia Pacific, lower than the 34.88%. Ano po mga learnings natin doon? Hindi po ba naging effective yung ganitong klaseng system?
No, we expected that. 2019, you have 18% voters turnout. In 2022, you have 40.59%, the highest in the history of overseas voting. The reason is because perhaps the interest of the people when it comes to midterm election is not that high, but it will have to peak whenever there will be presidential elections. So you expect a higher voters turnout by 2028. And that's the reason why even the number of voters who actually were able to register for 2 years were so low. Likewise, only about 200,000 for 2 years.
Hindi po ba may kalituhan din dito sa bagong sistema na ito? Kasi mataas ang turnout ng voting dito sa Pilipinas, pero abroad, isn't it also because of the new system in place?
No, not because of the system, Ma'am Gretchen. Simply because most of our compatriots abroad, especially those who are living in the areas that you mentioned, were applying for permanent status as a resident there or even citizenship. And that's also the findings most of the time of our post abroad, simply because they do not want they do not want the election compromising their application for a permanent status in the country where they are residing or where they want to get citizenship.
All right, okay. Maraming salamat for answering the questions. And thank you so much for your time today. Sana po ay nakapagpapahinga na po kayo kahit papaano after all of these. But possibly by June 30 pa rin. Katulad na sabi nyo. Okay, maraming salamat. We have COMELEC Chairman George Garcia joining us on Morning Matters today. Don't go away. More matters to discuss right after the break. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. Violators of the No Contact Apprehension Policy, or NCAP, climb to more than 1,000 as of Monday. Registered owners of the vehicles involved will receive citation tickets via the registered mail. The MMDA, though, is still working with telcos, so violators could be advised via text as well. The agency is also working on fixing the app where motorists can immediately check violations. Authorities have defended NCAP against accusation of just being a mere money-making venture.
Wala po kami sa business ng panghuhuli. Ang panghuhuli po namin ay para po sa disiplina ng ating mga kababayan na dapat po sumunod sila sa traffic rules for safety and para po walang chaos sa kalsada.
Meanwhile, the MMDA has warned motorists about a fake website claiming to let users check traffic violations under the No Contact Apprehension Program, or NCAP. The agency stressed that the link is not official and urged the public not to share or use the fake website. The MMDA added that an official NCAP website is still being organized and advised against entering plate numbers on unverified sites to avoid confusion or data misuse. For now, drivers are advised to rely only on official MMDA announcements and channels. Well, our wish for you today is that you don't have a violation yet on the second day of the NCAP implementation. Meanwhile, that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you the right start to your morning. Let's go ahead and make the day matter. My name is Gretchen Hall. We are One News, all sides, all the time.